Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the best fixtures ahead of the Game Week 23-24 season. I've outlined 5 teams who I believe have some amazing fixtures to start the season, with 5 players as well from each team, with all the key metrics that you need to make the best decisions to get the best start this season. If you do enjoy the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as I do answer every single question down in the comment section below, and we're trying to hit 1,500 subs on the channel, so that would be absolutely amazing if you could do that for me. But yeah, that's enough waffle from me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive in to today's video. And starting us off, the team that I believe does have the best opening fixtures is, of course, last season's champions, Manchester City. What a glorious 5 opening fixtures that is, and it continues as well in Game Week 6 and Game Week 7 as well, with Nottingham Forest at home and Wolves away to add to that. So 2 new promoted teams in the opening 3 games. Haaland's got to be a captain as well for Game Week 1. Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Fulham and West Ham are the opening 5. Really good start for Manchester City there in terms of fixture wise. Looking at the players that you potentially want to have from this team, I've outlined 5. Obviously with Manchester City there is a plethora of talent that I've had to miss out on this list. Obviously the transfer window is just opening as well, so they're going to add even further to this. Obviously starting off, Haaland, he's going to have to be in everyone's team at the start with this amazing run. You imagine Burnley and Sheffield United and even Fulham at home, he is going to be plus 100% EO. Last season, 36 goals, 9 assists, 28.94 XG, 5.70 XA as well. So some really good underlying data. Price point, I put him at 14 million. I think that's fair. They could even go 14.5. The man is an absolute monster. I think if he does go to 15, then we do have to kind of figure out, is he going to be worth it in the long run? Is he worth going against, betting against at that price? Can we get better value with our kind of 100 million budget? Maybe, who knows? I think they'll just price him at 14 million. Still really expensive, but he's just worth it, isn't he? The next player on the list is KDB. Another good season for him. 7 goals, 18 assists. The XG is wrong on that. I didn't update that one. Whoops. XA 13.42. Obviously on all the set pieces for Manchester City. I put him at 12.5. He was at 12 last year. I think just that slight increase as they were champions. Obviously put up another good season. Top assister in the league. So I do think that slight price increase makes sense. They could even put him at 13 million. But I just feel he's one of them players that you're not going to have every single week. It's usually when City double or just kind of have 1 or 2 good fixtures. Next player, a lot of people are really hyped about this one. If he keeps his position in kind of the midfield with that double pivot with Rodri. It does look like today that they potentially could be signing Rice, so that may hinder John Stones. But if he is in that midfield position, you're getting a defender playing a little bit further up forward, so he's going to be, you know, potentially getting more attacking returns, so that's something very good to see. Grealish as well, obviously been on the piss all week. Absolutely loving all the content that is coming off that. Had a good season. Looking at the data wise, it's not as good as people are saying. 5 goals, 10 assists, but definitely a player that passes the eye test. And then the final player that I have outlined is Julian Alvarez. Again, City at the end of the season will kind of pull him a little bit further back, playing him just behind Haaland at 6.5 million. If he is just playing behind Haaland, I think that could be a really good asset. I think he is going to see a lot more game time this season as well. Obviously Pep with these players does rotate, does have them in and out and in and out. I don't think that he's going to start the season, but I definitely think this year he could get a lot more game time. That was Manchester City. Those were the 5 players that I've outlined. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below, and let me know what you think of City's opening fixtures. But let's move on to the next team. Arsenal are the next team that we are going to take a look at for this upcoming season. Obviously finished second, a really good season for them, massive improvement. Some of their assets last year were unstoppable. Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus when he was fit, and Ben White and Gabriel and Saliba at times at the back were absolutely immense. Obviously the fixtures as well, they've been blessed with another good run. Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Manchester United, but it is at home, and then Everton as well. So a really good opening 5 for Arsenal as well. I definitely think a lot of people are going to be on the double, maybe even potentially the triple Arsenal players going into the kind of opening games of the season, which completely makes sense after the performances last season and with the good fixtures as well. We will run through the players that I have selected: Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, White and Jesus. I do think they're potentially the best 5 that you can get from Arsenal. Starting off with Odegaard, club captain, 15 goals, 8 assists for him last season. Really good underlying data as well to go with that. Obviously there is going to be a huge price increase. I think he was about 6.5 last year, I think he started at. I put him up to 8.5. They could even go to 9 million. You know, they could absolutely hammer these Arsenal midfielders, really make it difficult this year. Obviously, I think if they're all kind of priced around that 8.5, 8 and 9.5, I do think that is a little bit unfair. I think they need to be priced, especially Saka, around the 10.5 million. Make it a real choice. You've got to have 1 or 2, not all 3, because it's still capable to get all 3 in your team. Obviously, Saka is the next player on penalties, 14 goals, 12 assists for him. 9.5 is what I've priced him at. I could easily see them putting him over 10. Again, with these fixtures, potentially captaincy worthy for game week 1 if you want to go against Haaland, and in game week 5 with Everton away. Gabriel Martinelli, whoa, just about get it out there. Gabriel Martinelli, 15 goals, 9 assists for him. I put him at 8 million. Again, a huge increase from the 6 that he started at last season. They could easily bump him up to 9 million. Absolutely easy, but I do think kind of the other players that were priced around the 8 million mark last year, I think he kind of fits that profile, that kind of quota, so I do think they'll put him at 8 million. Ben White, a lot of people kind of always snubbed their noses at Ben White, it seemed, last season, but finished 3rd highest, 4th highest point scorer for Arsenal last season. Good XA, and I could potentially see them switching to kind of a City system where there's kind of like that 3 at the back. I could easily see him kind of slotting into that double pivot as well when they need to. I put him at 5 million. They could easily price him at 5.5. One of the highest scoring defenders in the game last year. And then Gabriel Jesus, 11 goals, 7 assists. Obviously did miss a large proportion of the season through injury. Started the year at 8 mil last year, which was absolutely bargain territory, and I don't think they can do too much with his price because he did spend a large majority of the year out. I think around that 9.5 million is where they're going to put Gabriel Jesus. If they put him at 10, I think that's a little bit ridiculous because obviously did miss large parts of the season, didn't put up, like, you know, astronomical numbers, but I think 9.5 is around the fair price for Gabriel Jesus. Those were the Arsenal players. Those were the fixtures as well. Really good fixtures. I definitely think you need at least 2 Arsenal assets in your team at the start of the year, just with the good fixtures and the quality, the attacking quality and defensive quality that the Gunners do have. But let's move on to our next team in today's video. Moving on to our next team, and it is Brighton that I have outlined as potential good fixtures to start the season. I think it's kind of more a good opening 3 for Brighton: Luton, Wolves and West Ham. The Newcastle and United games, but we saw the quality that Brighton did have. Some of the football that they played last year was phenomenal, and they had amazingly good priced assets for the output they were doing. It was honestly absolutely ludicrous, some of the players that they did have last season. So I do think it is going to be for that opening 3 fixtures, especially Luton at home on the opening day of the season. That could be, you know, a really high score for Brighton. Obviously the quality that they do have in their team. Luton, first time, you know, back in the Prem, not back in the Prem. First time playing at this level for a long time as well, so they could absolutely get demolished on the opening day by a very good Brighton team. So I have outlined some players that you potentially could go for. Pascal Gross is a player I didn't realise how amazing a season that he's had. 9 goals, 8 assists, good XA, good XG as well. I put him at 6.5. He was Brighton's highest point scorers. They could easily price him at 7 mil, but I feel he's one of them that kind of went a little bit under the radar. No one really owned him, and he just kind of ticked on throughout the season, picking up some nice points as well. So I don't think they'll overprice him. Moving on to the other players, though, that I do think they are going to potentially overprice this year. Solly March, I've put 6.5. They could easily go 7.5 with this man. Really good season from him. Kind of like his flourishment, his breakout season in the Premier League. Just been like kind of average before that. This year, just absolutely killed it, didn't he? So hopefully same again from him. 7 goals, 10 assists, good XG and XA. I've put 6.5, but that could easily be 7.5. A player that everyone kind of loved for periods of the season and then kind of fell out of fell out with, sorry, because, you know, just couldn't hit the ball. He just couldn't hit the goal, couldn't assist. It was so frustrating to get in the good positions and then it just be a terrible, terrible shot. We are talking about Matoma, 7 goals, 9 assists, a player that massively, massively passed the eye test. I think with the popularity of this player as well, I put 7 million. They could go 8. They honestly could go 8, just down to the popularity of this player, kind of the form that he was in for periods of last season. I think if they go that high, I don't think many people are going to touch him unless he can take his game to another level. Estupiñán at 5.5, one of my favourite players to own last season. I think he came in at 4.5, ended up finishing the season around 5 million. So I think 5.5 is very fair. Like I said, one of my favourite players. I have bought his NFT on SoRare as well. That's how much I love this guy. Was gutted that I had to kind of move to Steel at one point in the season rather than bring Estupiñán back in my team. It cost me kind of big over that period because Estupiñán was absolutely smashing it as well. One of my favourite defenders to own last season. And then the final player I've put is Ferguson. Now, Brighton do have a kind of a plethora of talent that's coming into this squad. Obviously, got João Pedro up front as well. Welbeck, Undav, I think is going to have a better season than he did last year. So there's a lot of striker options, but I think the way that Brighton managed Evan Ferguson in his kind of first season was really well, restricting his game time, bringing him on when they needed to. If he's around that 5.5 million, he could be a really good third choice kind of striker slot who's going to play games. I think he's going to have another good season, build on the 6 goals and 2 assists that he got last year, but it is kind of whether or not he's going to play every single game. I don't think he will, especially with them paying 30 million for João Pedro as well. Just can't quite see it happening. But I think in times of need, maybe as that third choice striker who's going to play week in, week out, he potentially could be an option. Those were the Brighton players and the Brighton fixtures. Let me know what you think of that down in the comment section below. And let's move on to our 4th team. The next team that we are going to take a look at is Chelsea FC. Obviously an absolutely abysmal season last year. Went through 3 managers, Tuchel, Potter and Lampard. Finished the season just whimpering out of it. Really, really dreadful for them. They now have Pochettino. They've still got all the money. Yes, they are going to sell some players as well, but they're also bringing in some absolute quality. Good manager at the helm as well. Good opening fixtures as well. Obviously, that Liverpool home game, probably not going to be great. It's probably going to be like the 6-0 in a row as well between those two. But after that, West Ham, Luton, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. Good opening 5 fixtures for them. And they kind of continue after that Bournemouth game. Aston Villa at home. Then Fulham away and Burnley away as well. So I definitely could see us having one Chelsea player in our opening drafts, kind of see how they get on. Maybe after the first 2 games you want to bring them in as well. I think that's perfectly acceptable thing to do, especially with that Luton at home game as well coming up, looking absolutely delicious. But let's take a look at the assets that I have underlined. Raheem Sterling moved to Chelsea last season, didn't really get himself going. Obviously, he's a quality player when things are going right for him. We've seen that underperformance on his XG as well. Only 6 goals and only 4 assists. I think he was at 9.5 last year. I've dropped him down to 8. He could be honestly an absolute bargain if Pochettino can get him kind of ticking over. Another player that had a very hit and miss season is Ben Chilwell. 2 goals, 3 assists. I think he only played like 17 games. Injury hit season for him. I put him at 5.5. Obviously, we know the quality that him and Reece James have in terms of attacking output. Hopefully, Poch can get the best out of them and keep them fit for longer periods of the season. That's the big problem. You bring these guys in and they just don't keep fit for long enough. You want a player that you're not going to think, he's going to only last me about 4 or 5 weeks because he's going to be injured. It's just really frustrating kind of owning these guys as well. The next player is a player that I believe they've signed. Like, I'm 99% sure that this was done last year and he's going to be here in the summer. It is Nkunku from RB Leipzig. Don't know too much about him, so can't really comment kind of thoroughly on his ability. 16 goals, 4 assists in the Bundesliga. Good XG. Couldn't find his XA anywhere. Bit weird. I put him at 9.5 million. I think they'll even put him down as a midfielder, potentially even as a forward. Obviously, I put him at that price point because having a good season in a foreign league. They could even drop him low as 8, maybe undervalue him, and he could be an absolute gem that we can exploit. But with new transfers, I don't kind of like to have them in my opening drafts. I like to go for players that are kind of settled, nailed, you know what they're about, you know their ability in the Premier League as well. Especially with a new manager coming in, you don't know which players he's going to select, which ones he's not. So I would say avoid Nkunku for the first kind of 2 fixtures. Then maybe at that Luton game, if he's absolutely killing it, then we go and bring him in. Next player is Reece James, like very similar to Chilwell, very hit and miss season, very frustrating as an owner at times to have Reece James, but we know his explosivity, we know what this man can do when he is fully fit, so hopefully we get to see that this season. And the last player that I've put up there is Kai Havertz, the second highest scoring Chelsea player this season. Now the reason I've put him in is potentially could be moving to Arsenal, so maybe become an Arsenal asset. We've already seen the good fixtures that they have. But obviously if he stays at Chelsea, then he does open himself up as an asset. I've dropped his price down to 7 million. Not a great season from him. 7 goals, 1 assist. Underperformance, on his XG and underperformance on his XA as well. So it's suggesting that he's getting in the right positions, just lacking that little bit of a clinical touch to put those chances away. You can see it at times, but he's a very frustrating player to own. So maybe Poch can get the best out of him, or maybe that Arsenal move does flourish and Arteta can get the best out of him. Chelsea were the 4th club that we have taken a look at. Let's move on to our 5th and final club of today's video. And the final club that we are going to take a look at today is Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously a dreadful season for them last season, not what they were expecting. Conte's first full season didn't really work out, did it, lads? And I put them in today's video because I am interested. I'm interested in them. Obviously, it's a difficult first 2 opening fixtures, Brentford and Manchester United. We've seen how good Brentford are over the past 2 seasons. Manchester United as well at home, could go either way. I really wouldn't want any assets in that game. And then after that is a nice run of 3 fixtures, Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United. The Bournemouth and Sheffield United ones, very, very tasty indeed. Looking at the players that you potentially could get from Spurs, there's only 3 that I'm actually interested in. Kane, 30 goals, 9 assists, good XG, good XA, 13 million is what I've priced him at. Could easily see them putting him at 13.5. They could even go double 14, absolutely cook everyone over with that one. Really make people think about the decisions that they've got to make as well, because people want Salah, people want Kane, people want Haaland. Really make people think if they put him at a ridiculously high price point. Moving on to our next player is Heung-min Son. Disappointing season for him. The lowest Premier League goals that he scored in a full season in the Premier League since joining. 10 goals, 6 assists. It just wasn't cooking for Son, was it, last season? I've dropped his price down by 1 million, 10.5. They could even go to 10. I think he could potentially become a really good midfield option if they put him at that price point. And then the final player that I have been looking at on So Rare, and the player that I potentially would be interested in if they price him right, is Pedro Porro. Not for the defensive capabilities, but down to the fact that he was getting himself in some really good positions. 3 goals, 3 assists. The man only joined in January. I think he played about 18 games as well. So to put up them numbers, to beat like the likes of Chilwell and Reece James in very similar kind of number ranges as well in terms of games, I think he is a player that is kind of going a little bit under the radar. Obviously didn't have a great debut, got absolutely slandered by Paul Merson, but I think he's starting to develop. He was very good at, I think it was Sporting he was at before, putting up some really good scores in So Rare, getting the attacking returns as well. So he's definitely a player that I am potentially going to have in my opening draft. Kind of see how maybe Spurs get on during that period if he is priced quite nicely as well. And then the last 2 are kind of highest point scorers that Spurs have had, Højbjerg and Davies. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about them because no one gives a shit, do they really? Yeah, potential players that they could buy as well is James Maddison, but like I said in the last section, I'm not going to bring in players who've just recently transferred to a side. But if James Maddison goes here, he again could be a very sexy option that you could get from Tottenham Hotspur with their good kind of free fixture kind of period. That's the way we'll describe it. But that was today's video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you did enjoy it. It's great to be back creating FPL content. I love the support you showed me on the last video. So can we do it again? Get the likes in, get the comments in. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.